a few minutes, which says, following further evaluation this morning, the Queen's doctors are concerned for Her Majesty's health and have recommended.
The sentence was short, but it landed like thunder across the monarchy. Prince William did not raise his voice. He did not offer comfort wrapped in ceremony. He simply confirmed what the palace had tried to keep contained. Catherine was not well. In that moment, every polished statement, every careful smile, every guarded appearance collapsed under the weight of 4 words that changed the mood inside the royal family. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. William stood in the private corridor before the announcement, gripping the edge of a folded note until the paper bent beneath his fingers. Kensington Palace, the London home and working base of the Prince and Princess of Wales, had already fallen into a strange silence. Staff had been told to pause routine briefings, cancel Catherine's engagements, and give no casual answer about her condition. That mattered, because royal schedules are not just calendars. They are signals of confidence, stability, and control. When her name vanished from every commitment, everyone understood this was not a minor change. Catherine sat away from the noise with her hands folded, hearing the distant movement outside the room, and knowing what William was about to do. She had spent years carrying pressure with grace. Yet now her private struggle was about to become a public sentence. The Princess of Wales, a title given to the wife of the direct heir in the monarchy, had become the center of a crisis no palace phrase could soften. She did not want pity. She wanted dignity. William knew that, and it made the choice harder. A senior aide placed the revised schedule on a side table and stepped back without speaking. One line said everything. Catherine had been removed from every appearance for the immediate future. William looked at the page, then toward the closed door behind which his wife waited. That silence felt like thunder. If he said too little, rumors would swallow her. If he said too much, he would expose pain she had not chosen to share. Charles asked what had happened behind palace walls, but William did not answer fully. The king understood the silence. He understood that his son was not hiding a detail. He was protecting a wound. Yet the refusal left the room colder than any statement could have done, because it proved there was more beneath the surface than the monarchy was ready to admit. And once William's words reached the rest of the family, the crisis stopped being only about Catherine's health and became a test of every bond around her. Behind the silence stood real people with fears. William was no longer only the heir to the throne. He was a husband trying not to break in public. Catherine was no longer only the composed Princess of Wales. She was a woman carrying pain behind closed doors. Charles, Camilla, Anne, and the children were pulled into a storm protocol could not soften. William entered Catherine's room after the statement and stopped before he reached her chair. The folded note remained in his hand, but he placed it face down beside her, as if the paper carried blame. The heir to the throne means the next person expected to become monarch, and that role demands calm before personal feeling. Yet William could not separate the future king from the husband in front of Catherine. Her absence mattered because she had become a steady face for the monarchy, and losing that presence created a gap no speech could fill. Catherine looked at him and tried to smile. She knew he was carrying 4 burdens: father, husband, spokesman, and prince. The children had heard the corridors go quiet, and Catherine feared they understood more than anyone admitted. William reached for her hand, but his grip tightened when she whispered that he had done right. Her calm did not comfort him. It hurt him, because even now she was protecting him while she was the one everyone should have protected. Charles received the update in a private room and lowered his glasses. The king understood that Catherine's withdrawal was not only a family matter, it struck at the emotional balance of the crown, the institution representing the monarchy and its public duties. Charles had seen palaces survive scandal and grief, yet this felt different, because the pain was not political. It was domestic. It was William's face. It was Catherine's name disappearing. Camilla asked how long the disruption would last, and the question landed colder than she intended. The queen consort, the wife of the reigning king, knew public order mattered, but Anne heard calculation inside the concern. Camilla asked about the schedule again, and Anne watched carefully, saying nothing. That silence became its own warning. Charles saw Anne's expression. William felt the shift when he returned. Catherine sensed it too, because loyalty sounds different when fear enters the room. Anne did not confront Camilla yet, but she remembered every word. The family had heard the same news, but not everyone had felt the same wound. And that difference would soon matter, because to understand why this announcement struck so deeply, the story must turn back to the private moment that pushed the palace past the point of control. Every palace crisis has a moment people later remember as the beginning. Not the statement, not the headlines, not the public shock. The real beginning happened earlier, behind a closed door, during a private Windsor rehearsal that was meant to restore confidence. Catherine arrived determined to stand, smile, and prove she could carry the weight. But by the end of that room's silence, William knew the performance could not continue. Catherine stepped into that rehearsal carrying more than a schedule. Windsor, one of the royal family's oldest working residences, often becomes the place where private duty is tested before public life resumes. That mattered because this rehearsal was not ceremony for ceremony's sake. It was a controlled trial for her return to royal duties, meaning the public work expected of senior family members. William watched her closely, while a senior aide checked each movement, and a medical advisor kept his notes low. Catherine tried to continue when the room began closing in around her. She placed one hand on the back of a chair and told William she only needed a moment. The prince did not answer at first. He saw the change in her face before anyone else dared to name it. The senior aide looked toward the medical advisor, and both understood the same terrible truth. This was not pressure. This was warning. William told everyone to leave. His voice stayed quiet, but it carried the force of a door locking from the inside. Catherine waited until the aide and advisor stepped out, then looked at him with eyes full of apology. She hated the thought of becoming the reason plans unraveled. He hated that she still thought she had to apologize. The monarchy had praised her strength for years, but now that same strength was becoming a trap. Catherine whispered that she could manage one more walkthrough. William shook his head. He asked her to stop pretending for the crown, and the word cut through the room. The crown, a simple name for the monarchy as an institution, had always demanded discipline, but he would not let it demand her health. She lowered her gaze, and the silence between them said what no palace statement ever could. The medical advisor later handed William a sealed recommendation. It stated that Catherine should withdraw fully until her condition stabilized. The senior aide prepared softer wording, but William rejected it because it hid too much and left her exposed to speculation. That choice changed everything, because truth had now become more dangerous than silence itself. And when William chose honesty over palace caution, the quiet disagreement behind closed doors turned into a face-to-face confrontation. The confrontation did not begin with shouting. It began with a chair moving back from a table. William stood before Charles and Camilla with the calm of a man already decided, while the room tightened around him. On the table sat the draft statement Catherine was never meant to see. It reduced her pain to careful phrases. William looked at it once, then refused to use it. William pushed the draft back across the table and kept his eyes on Charles. The king had called the meeting after the Windsor rehearsal, bringing Camilla, 2 senior aides, and his son into a room where every word carried danger. A palace statement, meaning the official message released to the public by royal staff, was supposed to calm the country and protect the family. But this one did something else. It called Catherine's absence a period of rest, as if her struggle could be folded neatly into a soft sentence. Charles lowered his gaze to the page. He understood why the aides had written it that way, because royal language often avoids fear by sounding calm. Yet William heard something cruel inside the calm. He heard distance. He heard the old machine asking a woman in pain to disappear politely. Catherine deserved dignity, not a phrase designed to protect palace convenience. The prince said so without raising his voice, and that made the words feel even harder. Camilla warned that direct language could trigger panic. The queen consort looked from William to Charles, asking how the public would react if the family admitted too much. Her concern carried logic, but it also carried control, and Anne heard both. She stood near the window, silent at first, then said the truth had already been delayed too long. Silence had not protected Catherine. Silence had only made the air heavier. William felt the old pressure pressing against him. The system wanted discipline. Charles wanted caution. Camilla wanted order. Anne wanted truth before damage became permanent. The future king looked at the draft again and saw Catherine sitting alone, trying to reassure him while her own strength was fading. That was when his face changed. He was no longer asking the room for permission. William said he would speak himself. He would use direct words. He would not allow Catherine to become a managed absence, a softened line, or a convenient pause in the royal calendar. Charles looked torn between fatherly concern and kingly duty, while Camilla sat stiffly, knowing control had shifted. Anne watched William with quiet approval, because the room had finally heard what no aide could write. The decision landed like a crack through the table. William had not shouted, but he had changed the balance of power. Charles knew it. Camilla felt it. Anne recognized it. And that question led directly to the machinery behind the monarchy, where power is rarely shouted, but always felt. In royal life, power often hides behind polished doors and polite wording. A schedule can become a weapon. A statement can become a shield. A delay can become a warning. After William spoke, the palace machine moved quickly, not to comfort Catherine, but to control the meaning of her absence. And inside that machine, one question grew sharper. Who was protecting her? And who was protecting the institution? William entered the communications room, and the talking stopped. A senior courtier watched him cross the room with a tired face and a steady step. Royal Communications, the team that prepares official messages and guides public expectations, had already begun shaping the next statement. That mattered because Catherine's cancelled engagements were no longer simple diary changes. Each removal from the calendar told the country that her condition was serious enough to change the rhythm of the monarchy. William did not ask who had approved the drafts. He placed one hand on the table and looked at every page. The prince understood the danger of silence now. If the palace softened too much, Catherine would look hidden. If it spoke too sharply, she would look exposed. The senior courtier saw the difference in him. This was not a man seeking permission. This was a husband drawing a line through the machinery that had once guided him. Charles read the updated plan alone and set it down without speaking. The king carried two burdens in that moment. Sovereign, meaning the reigning monarch responsible for the crown's public stability, and father-in-law, to the woman at the center of national concern. Charles knew the palace needed order, yet he also knew order could sound heartless when a family was hurting. His silence felt less like approval than defeat. Camilla understood the shift before anyone said it plainly. The queen consort saw that no statement about Catherine would leave the palace without William's approval. A private instruction moved through the household. No one was to speak about Catherine's health unless the prince agreed first. Camilla asked whether that meant Kensington now controlled the message. No one answered quickly, and that pause told her everything. William had taken emotional authority without making a speech. Catherine's household now stood at the center, not the wider palace machine. The change mattered because loyalty was being measured in action, not title. Charles could feel the pressure rising. Camilla could feel control slipping. And the senior courtier knew the first real fallout had begun. Because once control moves, loyalties are exposed in ways no palace statement can hide. And as the new reality settled over the household, the first person forced to confront its consequences was the woman at the center of it all. For Catherine, the hardest sound was not the public reaction. It was the palace becoming quiet around her. Footsteps softened outside her door. Conversation stopped when William entered the corridor. Her name disappeared from schedules, briefings, and ceremonial notes. The world thought the announcement was the shocking moment. But for Catherine, the shock came afterward, when she realized life had already begun rearranging itself without her. Catherine sat in the quiet room and watched William close the door with careful hands. Her calendar, the planned list of royal visits and duties arranged by palace staff, had been cleared almost completely. That mattered, because each cancelled appearance was more than a diary change. It was a sign that her place in the daily rhythm of the monarchy had been paused. The ceremonial notes, meaning the written plans for formal royal events, no longer carried her name. She had spent years turning pressure into grace, and now the system was moving, as if grace itself needed to be removed for safety. William stood beside her chair before he sat down. He looked like a man who had won control and lost peace in the same breath. Catherine asked whether the children had heard the words he used. She did not ask what the newspapers would say. She did not ask how the palace would defend it. Her first fear was family pain, because a child hearing "she's not well" does not hear strategy. A child hears danger. William took her hand and admitted he could not keep pretending. The prince said the words slowly, as if each one cost him something. Catherine looked away, Not because she disagreed, but because she understood too well. Duty had taught them both how to keep standing. Love was now asking them to stop. That was the cruel turn. The same strength that made Catherine beloved had become the very thing William feared would hurt her most. Catherine learned that Anne had privately supported his direct statement during a documented account shared through a senior household note. Anne believed plain truth had protected Catherine better than polished silence. Camilla had questioned the impact, asking how the admission would affect public confidence. The Queen Consort may have meant order, but Catherine felt the difference. Anne had seen the woman. Camilla had seen the disruption. Catherine reached for the prepared engagement folder on her bedside table and held it for a long moment. The engagement folder, a file containing notes for upcoming royal duties, had once meant purpose. Now it felt like pressure wearing a polite face. She handed it to William and asked him to take it away. His expression changed, because he saw what others might miss. This was not surrender. This was Catherine choosing breath over performance. Something quiet began there. William saw it before anyone else could name it. Catherine was not disappearing. She was refusing to be consumed. And that quiet strength becomes the turning point when Catherine and William face each other with no aides, no palace language, and no one left to protect them from the truth. The turning point did not happen before cameras. It did not happen in a council room, a briefing office, or a royal car. It happened in private, where titles meant nothing, and silence mattered more than ceremony. Catherine looked at William not as a princess asking for protection, but as a wife asking for truth. He had already told the world she was not well. Now he had to tell her what came next. William closed the door and stood for a moment before he spoke. Catherine watched him carefully, knowing from his silence that the palace had finally accepted what he had already understood. Her absence could no longer be minimized. The household, meaning the small team that manages a royal family member's daily duties, protection, and public schedule, had been ordered to stop building timelines around her recovery. That mattered, because timelines can become pressure, and pressure can turn healing into another performance. Catherine asked whether the decision had already been made for her. William shook his head. The prince told her no announcement, no schedule, and no quiet family expectation would move faster than she could bear. He had seen how the palace tried to protect itself with careful language, but he would not let that language become a cage around her. Catherine had spent years standing straight when others would have folded, and he knew the world might mistake rest for weakness. Catherine admitted the fear softly, for he did not want to be seen as fragile. She did not want the children to think their mother had vanished from duty because she had broken under it. William moved closer and took her hand. He told her strength was not measured by how long she could stand in public while suffering in private. The words hit harder than any statement, because he was not speaking as the future king. He was speaking as the man who had watched her disappear behind courage. William's voice broke when he admitted what had haunted him most. He feared the monarchy would take too much from her if he did not draw the line himself. The monarchy, meaning the royal system built around the king, heirs, duties, and public service, had survived by asking people to carry pain with discipline. But Catherine was not a symbol to be used until she could no longer breathe. She was his wife. She was their children's mother. She was still herself. Catherine finally nodded. She would step back fully, not because the palace demanded it, but because healing had to come before duty. William promised her in that room that nothing would outrun her recovery again. And outside palace walls, the country began reacting to a royal moment that felt less like protocol and more like a family in pain. By morning, William's words had escaped the palace and entered the national bloodstream. The phrase, "she's not well," appeared everywhere, stripped of polish, impossible to soften. People who had followed Catherine for years suddenly felt the distance between royalty and ordinary life collapse. A princess was unwell. A husband had said it plainly. And Britain, for once, did not argue first. It paused. Crowds gathered quietly outside Kensington Palace, and the silence carried more weight than noise. Kensington Palace, the London residence and working base connected to William and Catherine's household, had become the place where public concern turned personal. That mattered, because the country was no longer watching a schedule change. It was watching a family step back from ceremony and admit pain. Palace aides released a brief follow-up asking for privacy, and those aides chose each word carefully, knowing the mood had already shifted from curiosity to concern. One woman stepped toward the gate and placed a white bouquet near the railings. Her handwritten card carried only 4 words. "For Catherine. Rest first." The woman did not give an interview, but her gesture said what thousands were feeling. Catherine was not being judged for leaving public life. She was being urged to breathe. For a monarchy used to being measured by duty, that mercy felt almost shocking. William saw the photograph later on a tablet, and his expression changed. The prince had prepared himself for panic, anger, and cruel questions. But the flowers told another story. Catherine's absence had not weakened the bond with the public. It had made that bond softer. The future king looked at the image for a long time, then handed the tablet back without speaking. His silence held relief and sorrow together. A major newspaper turned the private wound into a national moment. Its front page carried a stark black and white image of Catherine beside the headline, "William's pain, she's not well." A front page, the most important newspaper cover used to frame the day's biggest story, matters because it can decide how millions first understand an event. This one did not scream scandal. It showed grief. It told the country that William's honesty had become part of the story too. A broadcaster said during a recorded morning segment that the monarchy had been forced to speak in human terms. The broadcaster repeated that this was not a royal failure, but a rare breach in royal armor. Palace aides watched the coverage closely, and even they understood the meaning. The public had not turned away from Catherine. It had moved closer. William's choice had survived the first test. Catherine's name still carried love, not doubt. And when the noise faded, what remained was not panic, not spectacle, but the truth of what this moment had revealed about Catherine, William, and the monarchy itself. In the end, the devastating news was not only that Catherine was unwell, it was that the monarchy had reached a moment where silence could no longer protect anyone. William's confirmation broke the old pattern. Catherine's absence became more than a gap in the royal calendar. It became proof that even inside the crown, even beneath duty, ceremony, and expectation, a family can still choose love over performance. Charles asked William to meet him privately, and the silence between them felt heavier than any argument. The king had watched the palace change around Catherine, and he knew the decision had already rewritten the family's path. The royal calendar, the planned list of duties and appearances that shows how the monarchy serves the public, no longer treated her as a name to be managed. That mattered because privacy remained, but denial ended. Catherine's health was no longer a public relations problem. It was a human priority. William stood before his father with the same calm that had carried him through the crisis. The prince expected caution, perhaps even correction, but Charles did not offer either. The monarch looked at his son and admitted, after a long pause, that William had made the decision he himself had struggled to make. He had protected Catherine without abandoning duty. He had spoken plainly without breaking the crown. That acknowledgement changed the room. Catherine received the message quietly. She did not celebrate it. She simply lowered her eyes and let the meaning settle. William's words had given her permission to step back without shame, and Charles's acceptance made that permission harder for anyone else to challenge. Catherine had spent so long being strong for the monarchy that rest had begun to feel like failure. Now, for the first time, rest felt like protection. Camilla's resistance faded into silence as the family aligned around Catherine. The queen consort understood that emotional authority had moved toward William because he had defended peace when others measured impact. Anne's support became decisive. She had not needed a speech to show where she stood, and her quiet approval proved that honesty had not fractured the institution. It had restored something human inside it. The final verdict was clear. Catherine was no longer expected to carry the monarchy at the cost of herself. William was no longer willing to let tradition outrank his wife's well-being. Charles had accepted that compassion could protect the crown better than control. Camilla had learned that order without warmth could not lead a family through pain. Anne had shown that truth, spoken at the right moment, can become its own kind of loyalty. So the story closes not with unanswered questions, but with a clear truth. William's words hurt because they were honest. Catherine's absence mattered because she was loved, and the monarchy survived the shock by remembering that behind every crown stands a human heart. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.